This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena. And folks, here we are. Well, I just had Orlando Rodriguez on here, but it was October 20th, 2021. Here we are crossing midnight here, and where I am. And now it is October 21st. You're still stuck in the 20th, though.
I am. It's been a long 20th day.
Same here. I was washing windows all day with a coat, holding that big long thing. I'm going to tell you. But looking forward to this. Folks, the gentleman I have on here come in here an hour ago, and I had the time zone thing wrong on my end, and what a gracious guy to come on here and be so forgiving of me. Folks, I give you Tony DeBenedetto. Did I pronounce that right?
That's close enough. It'll work. DeBenedetto.
You say it better than me. I just screw it up, you know?
Well, if I could get paid for every time that it was either misspelled or mispronounced, I'd never have to work again.
Well, you know what? I think it's actually a pretty cool last name. I'll say that, you know? What kind of name is that? Because, where's that come from?
It is a Sicilian name, actually. And
okay.
If you ever watch The Sopranos, in one of the final episodes, there was a character by the name of Eric DeBenedetto.
Okay.
So I won't say I have ties, but there's potential that there might be ties there.
So you're saying you got ties to James Gandolfini?
I'm not denying nor admitting
Well, you know what? It's great to have you on here. I did that post on Facebook the other night because I find I love having the bigger names on here, but I gotta say I'm somebody I work as a janitor. I work as a cleaner. I'm an essential worker, and I know what it feels like to be overlooked, you know. I clean up messes every day from people that almost it's like they're so careless, throwing garbage on the floor or whatever, you know, and they don't think. Well, I think in life we gotta look at people around us and put statuses and stuff like that aside, because I know who I am. And I went on Facebook the other night and I said, you know, I'd like to interview people that aren't necessarily right there dead center and have them come on and share their 13 fanboy stories and their involvement. And I got my most interviews this week, 10. Wow. You know, that's a record for me. Not all were 13 fanboy, you know, but nonetheless, I had about 6 or 7 from 13 fanboy. And it allowed me an opportunity to get to know some of the people that you don't necessarily hear from, like John Huey or Orlando Rodriguez, and now yourself, you know? So, I'm loving this because, like Orlando, we're both involved in 2 projects together, which is pretty cool. So, welcome to the show, and thank you for your patience. For those just tuning in, I mean, this is not live, it's recorded, but those just tuning in, I thought he was 3 hours behind me when he was in fact 2. When you went into the waiting room when I was interviewing Orlando, I was like, he's anxious to get on here. Whoops, no, it turns out things messed up on my end, but yeah, I live in Fredericton, New Brunswick. I'm in Atlantic Canada, so I'm actually 4 hours ahead of Los Angeles. So we're in that little area that nobody knows about. I often said when the Ultimate Warrior ran down to the ring and shook the ropes in wrestling, and they said he was from parts unknown, I'm like, he's from New Brunswick? Yeah, but listen, I think I'll start. I would like to get some of your background, where you've come from and how you got associated with 13 Fanboy.
Okay, so originally I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas. Pretty much
Ah,
born and raised here in Texas. Currently live just south of the Houston area now, and so um, it makes itself conducive to the movie industry because I'm able to pretty much split the coast. So
mm-hmm,
work out of New York as well as LA and a few places in between, Ruidoso, New Mexico, for example.
mm-hmm.
So, like I said, it's been a really good location as far as being able to, like I said, split time via the two coasts there. Um,
I need to ask. I don't mean to interrupt, but I've interviewed guests from Texas before. There's a number of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre folks there. Have you met any of them?
um, not actually. No, not. I have not met any of them yet. I had an opportunity, and something came up, and I was unable to attend the event. So, unfortunately, I've not had that opportunity yet. One of
What
these
about
days, though.
what about Sandy Johnson from Halloween? She's Texas based.
Sandy, I have met.
Isn't she a doll?
Yes, she's very lovely lady.
Yeah, she's a doll. I've had her on here twice. I haven't met her, but we're very familiar with each other. You know, she has gotten in touch with me about some things that I was able to help her with, and vice versa. So, yep. Well, she wanted to get hold of the director of Gas Pump Girls, which she was in, because a lot of people were asking for photos from that movie, and I'd had Joel Bender, the director, on my show, and unfortunately, he passed away shortly after they had their exchange. You know, but I was glad I was able to connect them. You know, and they got that done. But I love the fact that she reached out to me for that. And Sandy she's a doll. She's an absolute doll. You know, and another one from Texas. I don't know whether she's from Houston or not. I could be wrong. Laura Park Lincoln. Speaking of 13 Fanboy.
Right, she's actually up in the Dallas area right
Oh,
now.
Dallas. That's right, Dallas.
I don't remember if she's from Houston or not, but I do know that she is in the.
Actually, it's Dallas. I got them mixed up. I've never been to Texas before.
There's quite a bit of land around here, so it's easy to get the cities confused and mixed up there.
Have you met Laura?
I have. Actually, I was trying to get her to come to the premiere in Oklahoma City, since it's just a couple-hour drive from the Dallas area. But she had some things come up that she wasn't going to be able to make that. So, but yes, it's actually saw her. The latest I saw her was at Texas Frightmare convention, probably right about a month ago, I would say. So yeah, I had the opportunity to talk to her, and Becca Rose as well was there.
I haven't had Becca Rose on here yet, but is Laura Park Lincoln as funny as she appears? I've had her on here back in 2016. She was my last interview of the year. I haven't talked to her since, but is she as funny as her videos seem to let on?
Oh, she's great. She's a wonderful person. Very kind of what I consider the Southern hospitality type personality. Yes, extremely funny and a pleasure to talk with. And it was great to watch her perform, and looking forward to her performance on screen as well. So it's a very lovely lady. I enjoyed talking with her.
Well, I showed this. I showed this to Orlando earlier. Look at this.
Love it.
I promoted this at Horrorama in Toronto. I got this because it's got Tom Matthews on it, and he's not in the movie anymore, but he got this outside Kane Hodder. He got the most mentions on the shirt. Right. People that seen it, but I got this shirt, and I'm going to be promoting the film at Frightmare in the Falls, which I'm going to about a week from today.
Nice.
And I got this
Lovely.
little tote bag. Yep. Got a little. Actually, I'll do what I did with Orlando. I'll show you what I have in there. I got.
What goodies did you end up with?
Well, I didn't get this from 13 Fanboy, but I just kind of put this in here.
Nice. Jason mask.
Yeah, with a signature.
Yeah, nice.
Ted White. He was my favorite Jason from the final chapter. Yeah, I've had him on here a couple times. I'll tell you what, amazing gentleman to talk to. But I need to go back to what I said before, though. What initially got you into 13 Fanboy? How touch base on that?
Actually, it was kind of interesting because I was wrapping up a movie. I believe it was Hell of a Night, and someone had gone through and was, I guess, looking through at IMDb pages and
Mm-hmm.
came across my name and the fact that I'd been producing quite a few horror projects, and so they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we've got this project. Would you be interested in taking a look?" So I had a couple conversations with this gentleman, and then he introduced me to Joel or Paul Reiser.
Oh, Paul Rising. I've had him on back in January.
And
Yeah.
and then got in touch with Deborah, and so there were, after a few conversations with Deborah, just kind of understanding what the script was about, and the talent that was being sought after, and what have you. I was like, this sounds like an interesting project to be a part of, and that's really how I got involved with 13 Fanboy. Honestly, it was a cold call, to be honest. So looked at everything and thought, this would be a fun project.
How I got involved. I've had Debbie Sue Voorhees on here 4 times.
Okay.
And I think it was the 3rd time I had her on, she first spoke about this project. I don't know whether my podcast was the first to get mention of it. I won't take credit for that, but I bet you I'm one of the earliest. But when she mentioned it, it wasn't until she mentioned Tracy Savage's name that, okay, I'm going to be spending money on this movie. I had a crush on her while watching part 3 growing up, and she's still beautiful. And I've had her on here a couple of times, and she said I make her feel good because I don't hold back on the on the lovey-dovey compliments, But the moment she mentioned Tracy Savage, I was like, okay, my wallet's going to hurt. But I'm on as a co-producer. My name will be at the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie because I got that other perk where I'd have it at the beginning, and my picture is going to be in a scene with Tracy Savage. And according to Riley Vasine Morris, he said he recognizes my picture. He says it's a bit bloody. I didn't expect that, but I'm like, if my picture is involved in a gore scene, part of a gore scene, I'm like, it's kind of like being knighted.
There you go.
But I was settled just having it in a scene with Tracy Savage, but I'll take that.
Yeah, I was kind of the same situation as you, in the sense that when I heard that Dee Wallace was involved with the project, I've been fortunate to work with her on a couple of other projects. And so, talking to her, and then heard that Ron Sloan was also going to be involved. And so I was like, well, like I said, there's a few people in there that had some past history with, and now I had not worked with Ron at that point in time, but obviously enjoyed him in part 5 and what have you, and so was really looking forward to their interactions. And
look, I can read between the lines. You just wanted to meet him so you could have some of the stew.
Well, it's, yeah.
You know,
You get hungry every now and then, you know. So
you wanted to know if the slop was as good as he made it look.
that's exactly right. But yeah, so once that, once I found out who some of the actors that were going to be involved with, it kind of helped bring me on board a little bit quicker than maybe I would have in other projects. So
So basically, once you found out that Ethel Carol Locatel was going to be there, you knew you were going to get your stomach filled.
exactly, and
See, I could put the pieces together. I know what's going on here.
when she flipped me the bird, I knew I was in. So it was all good.
But you're executive producer on this. That was a higher perk than what I went with, co-producer. So,
Well, actually, I kind of went around the perks. So I'm not
mhm.
actually part of the Indiegogo project, or I'm actually an investor, if you will,
Okay,
the project. So
okay,
with the as an executive producer, again, the credits will be there. The
yep.
company, film company, is Javelina 98 Productions, which will also have a credit at the end of the probably in the end credits there. So shout out to Javelina 98 Productions.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, it was. Once I got involved and started seeing who all again was involved, and um, just the story itself was very intriguing to me, because it's one of those scenarios where people deal with stalkers. That is a real life scenario,
Mhm.
and as Adrian King opted not to be part of the project because of that. So which is very understandable. So if anybody's actually ever dealt with that situation or scenario, it is kind of scary, because
Yep.
you're you're getting contacted and what have you, and um, you get that over the shoulder all the time. Is that person physically able to see me, or in the vicinity? And so I think that this concept was a really really interesting concept, and kind of helped deal with that subject matter. So anyway, I
Well, you,
oh, excuse me, sorry about that. I had
you
this fly.
got to feed the fly to the fish there in the
That's what
background.
I'm working on.
Yeah. How many fish you have?
There's probably about 18 or so in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see the
I
big.
know I saw a black one floating around in there. Oh, I see a bunch of them. There you go.
There's a reflection, but in the bottom corner there
Yeah.
is a huge pleco, and he's probably about 15, 16 inches long. He's a huge guy.
Oh, my Skittles is hiding somewhere. I was going to see if you wanted to look at the fish. I had some mustard sardines earlier, and he was like, I want some of those. But you mentioned Dee Wallace. I had her on here back in 2015, and I got in it. I'm trying to get her back on here to talk about this, but I haven't been successful yet. But I met her at Horrorama 2018, and she remembered me.
Right.
I got in my Blu-ray collection. I got a signed Blu-ray of E.T. the Extraterrestrial and The Howling.
Nice.
Yeah, and I remember very well because I've interviewed Belinda Belaski from The Howling many times, and I actually was scheduling Belinda for an interview, and we made contact with each other while I was in Toronto at this event. But Belinda was under the weather at that moment, so I saw Dee Wallace. I said that Belinda Belaski says hello. She's got a cold right now, but another thing I remember about meeting Dee, besides her being very, very lovely, it was the first time I've been to a con where somebody had a debit machine at their table. I wish that would become a thing because I hate carrying cash on me.
And it's much more difficult too. A lot of people don't want to deal with cash anymore. So it's
Yeah, I'm like, because I'm going, like I said, a week from today, officially today, just past midnight here, but still a week from today, I head off to Toronto to Frightmare in the Falls. My first time at that one. CJ Graham will be there, so I'm going to wear this shirt. I got another special surprise for him too, because I'm good friends with Nancy McLaughlin.
uh-huh.
And yeah, she and I talk. Actually, she and I have talked a few times in the last few days. And I told her, I said, "Do you mind if I put you on speakerphone when I approached CJ Graham at his table?" And she said, "Yeah, let's do that." Yeah, I need to know if he's regretful over his roadside etiquette with her.
Oh man. Now, speaking of CJ, ironically, when we were at one of filming one of the convention scenes,
Mm-hmm.
um, everything was kind of moving real quick, and Deborah was like, "Hey, I need someone to be a handler for CJ." I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"That's me." So, so I know I made the trailer, so hopefully I actually made the film as well. But
Oh, I hope so.
you can see me there probably as sitting beside CJ, acting as his handler in the project. So that was kind of one of those impromptu, right place, right time, and took advantage of it. So
Well, here's a little trivia. Sean Clark was supposed to be in this movie. He was supposed to be dressed as a kind of a mascot or something. He takes his headpiece off and reveals him because he represents Debbie Sue at the cons. And because he was at another con and had other things, on his plate, he wasn't able to do it. And I'm like, oh, darn, because I just had this image of Sean Clark showing up in a Barney outfit and takes.
oh, that's funny.
I had Sean Clark on here back in January, and he told me that, and I feel bad. Tom Matthews had to pull away too because he got a lot of attention on this shirt. I'll tell you that, and
Right.
yeah, and to me, he's the definitive Tommy Jarvis is Tom Matthews. Yeah, but but no, I feel bad. Adrienne King had to leave the project, but I certainly understand.
Right.
Certainly get it. She was my second guest on here. I was hoping she'd go on there, be in this movie, and model those green turtlenecks and overalls. I know she loved that.
Yeah. I'm not sure she would buy off.
I thought she was going to start her own clothing line.
Right. The Adrienne King stockings. But
she's doing well with the Crystal Lake wines, and I got the script from Friday the 13th I got from her too. So
I was gonna say, have you tasted her wines?
No, we can't get it here in Canada.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. She was my second guest on here back in 2015 when I just kind of fell into the podcasting bit. I did a show at CHSR down there in campus, and I'm still there, but kind of fell into this because we wound up with an interview through a third party with Tommy Wiseau from The Room, and it kind of went from there. And it's like, here I am. I'm doing these on Zoom now because, well, our station was in lockdown for a year and a half, and I had done 30 interviews in 2020, and I had about 30 people waiting for me, and I had no way of doing them because I always did them by phone down there. Well, Nancy McLaughlin had said to me, if she can do Zoom, I can do Zoom, and I've done over, I don't know what number you are, but I've done over 110 this year.
Nice.
So I'm liking, I'm kind of liking this, so I could see the fish.
You see him now?
I see the fish. I'm waiting for Skittles to come over here so he can see the fish. Skittles be hungry. He's ignoring you out there.
Actually, I did want to, say thank you for one, having me on, and two, talking to the people behind the scenes, because like you said, they're very instrumental in putting these projects together. And a lot of times they don't get the credit or the spotlight attention that really they deserve, because they put a lot of hard work, a lot of hours, blood, sweat, tears. And you know I appreciate you doing this, and being able to allow them to have a voice as well, and not just be behind the camera. So again, thank you.
You know what? Here's the thing. I'm an essential worker. I'm a cleaner. I don't make money at the podcast. I do this because I enjoy it. But as a cleaner, you'd never believe how many times I get overlooked. Cleaners get treated badly. I go to buildings and people. You'd think people don't know what a garbage can is. It's. But nonetheless, it feels nice to have somebody. I remember I came up one morning, as I usually work back shift, not tonight, but usually work back shift, and I come up one morning and I went to get a coffee somewhere, and we were talking about the pandemic and this and that. And when the guy found out I was a cleaner, and he didn't have to do this, but he gave me my coffee on the house. He said, people have no idea what kind of crap you guys put up with, And he didn't have to do that, but I love the fact he recognized it, because people talk about doctors and nurses should be paid more. I also think cleaners should be paid more too,
I agree. I mean, again, it's that type of work that is very laborious, and nobody wants to do it, and a lot of people think they're above that. And so, no, I totally agree. I mean, it's what helps, keep our areas obviously clean, but
Yep.
it's work that a lot of people just don't want to do. And so for the people that actually do that work, it's very appreciative, because again, they're the ones that kind of keep areas presentable. So,
Well, you know what? I kind of dug the fact that during the pandemic, cleaners were called essential, and I'm like, I'm a hero. Although I hate having to clean when I come back here. I can't train my cat to do anything.
Yeah.
He's studying for his PhD in laziness.
There you go.
But
classes.
Oh yeah, he sleeps through his classes. Yep. But going back to what you said before, I know my place. I know of podcasters, and I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to throw shade at anybody, But I know podcasters that will only interview the stars.
Right.
And I feel lucky to be able to do this. I got to my first con. I lived here in New Brunswick, Canada, my whole life. And never been outside, never traveled. I'm 49 years old. In 2017, I had Lisa Langlois from the movie Class of 1984 on the show for the second time. We got talking about travel. She asked what was stopping me. Well, she made an offer I could not refuse, as Marlon Brando would say in The Godfather. She invited me to Toronto to assist her at her table at Horrorama.
Nice.
I could not say no. I knew her as Patsy in Class of 1984 since the 80s. And I couldn't say no. I've been to Toronto every year since. I'm the only one in my family who's ever been on a plane. And it didn't bother me at all, actually, shockingly. And Lisa is now a really good friend.
Right.
I really got back when I go to Frightmare. I'm actually going to meet up with her down there, because I always meet up with her when I go to Toronto, and I save all my free movies on my scene card. I always save them for Toronto because Toronto's got different types of theaters, and I always tell Lisa, pick some movies, and we'll go to dinner and go to movies, and so Lisa and I have become very, very good friends. So, and I credit her for me getting out of my shell.
Hmm.
And she's told me about getting business cards done and things to increase my brand about doing this show. But you know what? She didn't have to do that.
Right.
And I asked her, I said, why did you take a chance on me like that? And she said, there's just something about me. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that was, but thank you. So it's nice to have somebody just say, you know what? Let me create a path for you here. And at that con, I assisted her, but I got several other guests for my show there.
Nice.
So it was an experience that not only I enjoyed, but I've been back every year since, except last year because something decided to screw that up.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And I've had a blast with it, and I've loved it. So I don't want to be the guy who doesn't give people a chance.
Right.
And I know of podcasters out there that, and again, I'm not going to mention names. I'm not going to throw shades. These podcasts are actually really good podcasts. But the whole idea of not expanding and having just anybody on, I think you're burning bridges doing that. I had an author on not too long ago who was turned down by a podcast, and I had him on. His publicist asked me. I didn't know who this guy was, but I had him on, had a great interview with him. Well, he went to one of these conventions. He didn't expect to sell any more than 5 or 10 books. He sold 81. I'm glad I gave him a chance. Right. Because he probably will make something of himself, and he'll remember, of course, me. But so when I did that post, I did it kind of in response to this attitude of people that there's people out there that do podcasts because they want to be famous. And if you're doing it to be famous, you're doing it for the wrong reason. You got to want to do it. I don't make money at this, but I love the experience. And so I put that post on there because I know what it feels like to feel excluded. Take 13 Fanboy, for example. I'm probably not going to see it till it comes out on Blu-ray. I'm a little disappointed that it's not having a Canadian screening. And I told Debbie Suvor, I'm going to be in Toronto for a week because we probably won't get to hear in parts unknown. But I was like, can we get in Toronto? And she doesn't think that's going to happen. But she mentions all these streaming platforms. And I'm kind of like, first off, I'm not set up for streaming. But secondly, like, I'm a co-producer on this. I kind of want to see it with an audience, Yeah, and experience it. Like, I've seen Jason Lives many times on disc. But when I was in Toronto last, I saw a special screening of it at the Deja Vu Theater there. And it was like seeing it for the first time again with an audience. It was pretty cool.
Right.
Seeing a movie on the big screen is like seeing it live. It's about the same difference as listening to a CD and seeing the artist live.
Right. And
so I kind of want to see 13 Fanboy that way, but I'll get the Blu-ray when it comes out. And so I was a little put off by that, but nonetheless, what can you do?
Yeah,
but
I mean, unfortunately, the bad thing is that you have a certain budget, and once you hit that budget, it's you do what you can with that, and unfortunately, we weren't able to get it nationwide, 5,000 screens kind of thing, but I
well,
think
they could have sold Ethel's stew. That would raise the money.
They might have made some money there, help subsidize the screenings, but honestly, that's plays a big part of it, right? Is that
Yeah.
it people don't realize that it actually costs money to put these in the screenings in the theaters, right? So, um,
But I'm not even set up to stream anyway, so that's okay. I'm gonna get the Blu-ray, and I'm still gonna promote this at Frightmare at the Falls. So it's
right,
not like I'm pulling away from the film. It's just I'm not gonna see it until way later. But
right. No,
this is
I get that gets disappointing, but it's unfortunate. We probably only got it around, I think it was 25 or 26 locations nationwide, which again, it's not a bad little push. I'm sure everybody wished that it was in all the theaters, but again, you work with the budget you have and try to get the word of mouth, and hopefully it does very well this weekend and allows for additional theaters to be implemented, here in the next couple weeks or so. So, um, you know, again, we just all we can do is keep promoting it, and hopefully people enjoy it and tell their friends, and they come out and see it.
you gonna take your fish with you?
I might the big one I might have to take with me just
Did
because
you introduce them to Debbie's dogs?
those dogs are fabulous.
I believe they're the 13 fanboy.
Oh, of course.
Yes, I'm not fooled.
Don't give it away.
That's what Debbie said. There's spoilers.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. Yeah, but I mean, but I put that post on there the other night because I know of people involved with 13 Fanboy who feel left out, and I've heard them voice it, and I thought, well, I'm in a position here where I have a lot of these named people give me an opportunity to talk to them. Why not give them a voice? And like I said, I put that post, I've got 10 interviews this week. That's my most in a week,
Right.
and I think 7 of those 10 are from 13 Fanboy. So I'm liking that. And plus, it gives me a chance to kind of get to know some of the behind the scenes people from the movie. I kind of dig that. So yeah.
I'm waiting for the movie to hurry up and come out so that we don't have spoilers, because there's some behind the scenes pictures that I was able to take that I would love to be able to share, but until it comes out, obviously we don't want the spoilers out there.
I'll probably hear all the spoilers before I ever see it. But here's the thing about that. I heard all the spoilers for Halloween Kills, and I still went and saw it and still enjoyed it, Yeah, although I'm kind of at fault. I read the script online too, because I wanted to know. I was worried. I wanted to know if Kyle Richards lived in it. That's all I wanted to know. That's all I wanted to know. That's why I read the script. But it doesn't stop me from going and enjoying. If I hear the spoilers for 13 Fanboy, it doesn't. I'm still gonna see it. Look, my name is on it. My picture's in it. Of course, I'm gonna want to see it. Yeah. But
there were definitely a lot of great behind the scenes people involved. Meg Wilbur did a lot of the special effects, and Elise, Nicole did, the makeup and what have you. So there were, the DPs, and, Dominic, and, of course, Joel helping out with a lot with AD. And I mean, there's just a ton of people that were.
Joel Paul Rising.
Oh, yeah.
I had him on here back in January. He had a little accident on that film. I guess they were walking around the property, and I guess how sometimes stuff don't get picked up, or there was something built or something. You're just walking around somewhere. I guess he stepped on a nail.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah,
was,
he told me about that, and the biggest laugh we got, he said he won't mention names, but he said one of the girls said, "Why don't you take your shoe off?" And he's like, "It's nailed to my
yeah.
foot." That's something that needed to be caught on camera. Not the foot on the nail, but the "Why don't you take your shoe off?" and him reacting to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would have been funny. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, one, and you've probably, if you've talked to several of the people, there's a lot of antics going on behind the scenes. The googly eyes is probably the biggest thing that took place, and it's like uh, all of a sudden there were these googly eyes on everything. Like every time we turned around, it was very comedic. It kind of lightened the mood and took some of the stress off of
I heard Andrew Leahy really went to school with them, and I haven't had him on here, but the word around the campfire, Andrew Leahy went to school with those googly eyes.
yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff going on, and looking forward for everybody being able to see the movie. Just again, a lot of literal blood, sweat, and tears went into this. Uh, Funny thing is I'm a hands-on type person, right?
Huh?
I'm one I can't. I have a hard time just sitting around and letting things happen. And so when I got on set, even Deborah was kind of laughing at me because it didn't matter what was going on. I was always doing something. So I was either washing dishes, after craft services, or uh, literally moving mountains, trying to clear areas for part of the shoot to take place and making sure that there were no major rocks or things like that, for kind of like what you were talking about, other safety issues, right? And
Joel could have used you.
and being a grill master and all that stuff, trying to get the barbecue pit going and all kinds of good stuff, so had a lot of fun, just being able to, it's like, well, this isn't what a executive producer is supposed to do. I was more of a hands-on guy. I was like, well, wherever you needed help, you needed things to be vacuumed, I was there to help with that, or just whatever. Um, so it was funny because Deborah kept looking at me like, okay, you're not. Most people when they come in, they get that kind of attitude of, well, I'm an executive producer, and they kind of stand back and let everybody cater to them, and what have you, and not trying to pat myself on the back, but I just can't sit still long enough to have that happen. It's like, well, this needs to get done. I'm not doing anything, so it'll save time later on for someone else having to do it, right?
Mhm.
So it was, and what I've got must say is that this project is one of the best teamwork projects that I've had the pleasure of being affiliated with, because again, everybody was very helpful. I didn't get the feeling that anyone thought they were better than the other because of whatever position that they held. It was a team effort. Everybody pitched in wherever they needed the help, and we got things done. And so, very family oriented cast and crew, and they worked very well together, which was, and I think you're going to be able to see that in the movie on how everything was put together. You should be able to see how that cohesiveness came and was there. So, um, and like I said, Riley did a great job on the edit and what have you. So, again, a great team effort there.
So, craft services, did they serve Ethel stew?
I think they kept trying to get the recipe and she wouldn't give it up. So, we had to deal with whatever sandwiches and, that they put together. So, she wouldn't give it up.
Here's another question. What kind of director was Debbie Sue? Because I'm wondering, did you guys ever have to like have a send a search out to find her and find her on the Hubbard lawn? Just
She,
curious, just curious, and
I hear you.
want to make sure bad habits are not dying slowly.
Well, um, no, actually, Deborah's wonderful.
Hmm.
She, pretty much let the actors bring life to the characters. And unless there was something specific that she wanted to see, or maybe, it was hitting a mark a little bit different or what have you. But outside of that, for the most part, like I said, she let the actors, bring the character to life and their interpretation of what that character was. There were a few times that the one main time there was a scene that we were shooting that basically we had one shot. It was if we screw this up, it gets screwed up, and it's going to be a problem. And so, when we were getting ready to shoot that scene, the tensions were kind of high. Everybody's nervous. All right, make sure the camera's in the right position. Everybody offset that doesn't need to be there. Background noise. Quiet on the set. I mean, it was just a very, very nerve wracking moments leading up to getting that shot. There were multiple rehearsals that were done, just to make sure everybody knew where they were going to be and positioning. I won't give away what the scene is, but like I said, when you see the movie, you'll probably figure out which scene it is that I'm referring to. But it just was very tense. And but outside of that, and even then, you know, she wasn't like harsh with people. She was just like very um, straightforward. Say, hey, we only have one shot at this. We need to make sure we get it right. Everybody, focus on what's going on. But for the most part, she was willing to joke around with people on the side and what have you. And she's great, great, great director. I mean, like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing other projects that she does in the future because she just had a way of connecting with the cast and crew, and they responded very well to that. So
Yeah, absolutely. So you were on set in New Mexico, plus you were part of the Los Angeles con scene.
well, we shot one of the scenes in Rio Doso as well. So
Okay.
there was LA. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be at the LA shoot.
Oh, okay.
So I had some other work that came up that prevented me from that shoot, but I was able to be at Rio Doso. So uh, it, again, it was a fun shoot though. I mean, we had a blast with everything there. Again, got to hang out with CJ and D and Ron and what have you, and was able to develop some really good friendships. Judy Aronson. So again, we just had a blast out there, and looking forward to everybody seeing some of the locations that we shot. There's again, I won't go into some of these, but one of the houses that we shot in was beautiful. The architecture there. As a matter of fact, the lady that lived there designed the house, and beautiful, beautiful home.
Hmm.
And so,
And you guys ruined it, right?
oh, we tried our best, but there were some tarps that got in the way, allowing the blood to stain the floors. We were trying to make the brown wood red wood, but it just wasn't able to make that happen. So, and I'm sure the owner was very appreciative that we failed in that mission. So,
Well, I heard the story, of course, from Jason or Joe Paul Rising. Did you see a lot of elk when you were there?
Oh my gosh, there were herds of these things in the mornings. You'd be driving through the area, and there was a golf course that was kind of near the where we were at, so it had kind of this wide open pastures areas, and you would get these herds of 20, 30 elk just kind of cruising through. And if you happened to be on the road at the wrong time, and you just kind of sat there and waited for them to move, and they looked at you like, we're in no hurry, so you might as well drink your coffee and relax. So yeah, but that was that was one of the cool things about seeing everything out there, was the seeing that wildlife that close. I was always concerned because I had a smaller vehicle of them getting spooked or whatever, and they would take that vehicle out fairly quickly. So uh,
Yeah, but Jason Bradford could always go pick you up.
well, that's true. Yeah, we get old Jason to come out and say, "Hey,
I heard his stories picking people up. His stories with Jennifer Bonco had me laughing.
and that's the fun thing about the movie making business, right? Is the behind the scenes stories. For me, it's kind of like, well, you've got the story that you were there shooting and presenting to the public,
Hmm.
but then you've got a whole nother set of stories and relationships that are built, and memories that you make, and you kind of create your own, like you said, behind the scenes footage of your own memories and uh, things that you experienced while you were there. And to me, that's kind of a fulfilling part of the movie. And I think honestly, that's why when you're talking with some of the celebrities and at the conventions and things, I mean, those are the things you're wanting to hear. What was it like to be on set? What was it like to work with so and so? Because you're trying to get that experience and live through their experiences, right? And so to be able to actually do that on your own and develop your own experiences is, was wonderful.
Yeah. So I've never been to New Mexico. I do know Jesse Ventura lives there, so
Are
yeah.
you a wrestling fan by any chance?
Old school wrestling. Old
There you
school
go.
wrestling. Yep. I don't like the product today.
Right.
No. But I had Roddy Piper's son and daughter on here um, not too long ago. So yeah. So I like the old school wrestling.
Yeah.
But I remember Jesse Ventura. I think he should have been 13 fanboy.
Uh,
I could see
never
that.
know. Never know.
But no, I don't watch much wrestling anymore. But I got a bunch of those old rubber figures. I found a bunch of them at a Comic Con, and boy, I grabbed them up. But I got a lot of familiar faces I grew up with. But to me, there was no champion like Bruno Sammartino.
There you
He is the champ.
go.
He's the champ. No, he's the champ. But what was it like for you the first day you stepped on set for that movie?
Oh man. Again, it was very it was very surreal. Again, watching the performances that um, Dee Wallace put on, and seeing her kind of get in that zone, and the professionalism and the chemistry between she and Ron, was just incredible. It, like I said, it's one of those things where when you're on set, you're actually seeing the full three-dimensional, as opposed to this little, pan situation, right? And limited to that screen. So it's interesting to see what's happening around just that little box, right? And it kind of gives you that visual of, okay, when this movie is being produced and filmed, how much is actually not being filmed, right? And so, and trying to capture everything in that little box when you've got all this other stuff going on around that, right? Um, and again, just going back to the teamwork, just seeing how everybody, you got your grips and your sound people and your makeup, wardrobe, everybody working together to make this thing happen, um, and to see how much work goes into things, right?
Hmm.
So for me, one of the beauties of working in the film is, when I first started doing it, the movie magic kind of got lost, right? It's almost like, oh, now I know how they do this, right? I'm seeing how they're making these things happen. But at the same time, it gave me more of a respect for what it took to get those, 3 to 5 seconds of, whatever, special effects or whatever it was that was going on to get that on film. It may take 3 or 4 hours and sometimes longer just to get that 5 second clip, right? And so, it definitely gave more of a respect for what the actors how they have to pull themselves into the characters. And then, and the actors have different techniques, right? So some of them, they want to be in that character and they're going to stay in that character all day until we wrap for the day. Some people are able to turn it on and off, right? And so it's interesting. Was interesting for me to see those dynamics on, how the different actors prepared themselves for the role, performed the role, and then once the scene cut, you know, sometimes some of them they just had to go off and be by themselves, and others
Who stayed in character?
for me, again, it's kind of like the professionalism. I'll go back to D. She, because of some of the scenes that she had to do and the mindset that she had to be in to pull these scenes off. She was one of the ones that a lot of times seemed to stay in that character much longer than other people, or at least she would be wanting to, after she did the scene, would kind of go off, to her green room or dressing room or whatever to kind of get prepared for the next scene. So again, seeing that professionalism of, you know, I'm here to work and this is what I need to do in order for this performance to come off. She was one of those. Um Ron, on the other hand, from the witnessing that I saw, he did his thing and then was all, be joking around, with everybody after the scene and everything. So again, it was interesting to see how the different dynamics came about. Um, but there's nothing like being on set, seeing the lighting, seeing the sound people, getting people in their positions. It's just that it sends chills or you get goosebumps once you start getting ready for to when they start rolling action. It's movie magic. I mean, what can you say?
It was interesting too that Debbie Sue brought in Vincent DeSante and Andrew Leahy from Never Hike Alone. Um, that was a. I'm not a big fan of all fan films. There's some that's just look like costume parties with your friends in the backyard. But Never Hike Alone, that was golden. I'll say the same thing about It's Me, Billy, the Black Christmas fan film. That was expertly done as well. But it was interesting that Debbie Sue must have enjoyed that movie so much that she brought these two in.
Right.
And I know that Vincent did some of the stunts in this film as well. Do you have any memories of those two?
Oh yeah, Drew was great to watch. Again, he and Haley's characters, the chemistries that they had there is incredible. And like I said, I think that's going to come through when you see the movie itself. But just, I mean, I don't even know how to say. I mean, Drew's a character. I don't know if you've had a chance to.
I haven't had him on. I haven't. I've had Vincent DeSante on here twice. I've had Haley Greenbauer on here, but I haven't had Andrew Leahy on here yet.
Yeah, no, he's a character, so he was a lot of fun to see on set, and again, the jokes and the pranks and stuff like that would go on behind the scenes was quite entertaining. So,
Mm-hmm.
but but the professionalism again was there. They brought life to these characters and made them kind of relatable to yourself or to the situation that was going on around them. So, again, I think they did a great job, both he and Haley, on the work that they did. So
I heard Kane Hodder brought his own little fart device on set.
yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of these behind the scenes things that are very comical, and love to hear the stories.
I heard he punched Jason Bradford in the balls. Yeah, I think Kane's a different type of prankster.
Oh, yeah. You got to watch yourself around him, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like I said, I got involved in the movie when I heard Tracy Savage was part of it, and I've had her on here a couple of times. And what do you remember about working with her?
Actually, Tracy, I think, was more in the LA shoot, so I wasn't able to really work with her.
Oh, I feel bad for you.
I know it's one of those things. Actually, I still need to have her sign my poster. Next time I see her either at a con or something, I need to get her to sign my poster. So.
Yeah, yeah. I've had her on here a couple times, and I told her, I said, you made me spend a lot of money on this movie. When people say thank you for supporting 13 Fanboy, they don't thank me, thank Tracy Savage. Once Debbie C dropped her name, I was in. Judy Aronson, what are your memories of her?
Oh man, Judy was great. Of course, you remember her back from Weird Science, but for me, one of my favorite movies was American Ninja.
Okay, I haven't seen that, but I know what one you're talking about.
Yeah, so I'm a huge martial arts fan and what have you. So, when to me that was kind of what most people's Weird Science version of Judy is. For me, American Ninja was that, and so, but she was great. Again, she had a way of her acting skills, like I won't say caught me off guard because I've seen her act before, but it was just so interesting to watch her, and I can't say a whole lot because I feel like I'd be giving stuff away if I did, but again, her performances, just it amazed me that some of the attitude and the way that she presented some of her scenes in there was just like she was fun to watch. A very sweet person as well. Enjoyed the time that we were able to talk here and there and between sets. And that's the other thing, right? Is that when the actors are there and you're kind of in between sets, you're like, okay, well, do you talk to them? Do you not talk to them? And it kind of goes back to, some of them prefer to have that distraction a little bit, to kind of take some of the pressures off, or especially if it's an intense scene. But then others prefer to just kind of, be left alone so that they can concentrate and stay in character or whatever. And so it was interesting to tell, when is that dynamic? When is it okay to talk with them, or when is it like, okay, they're working, and so don't disturb them, right? So a lot of times we'd have to try to wait till after things had wrapped, and then you could have conversations. But
Who did you have the most conversations with?
um, it's a good question. Probably, I would say CJ and Ron were the ones that mostly. Um, of course, I knew Dee from a couple of other projects, so there'd be times where she'd be, "Hey, Tony, how's it going?" and kind of start up conversations, and I would talk with her at those points. But again, I tried to be respectful, really, to everybody. The fact that, hey, they're working. Try not to disturb their concentrations. And if they came to you, that was one thing. But if it was something where you try not to fanboy, right? So you let them do their job, and realize that there's other social times that are available to where you can actually talk with them and socialize. But on set usually is not the best place for that to happen.
Oh, lovely Lar. Did you meet her?
Oh yes, Lar. I love Lar. Again, I got to see her up in uh, Texas Frightmare, about a month or so ago, and you know, talking with her about the movie, and she loved doing this project, and again, I'm so happy that she was part of it, because she's a character. I mean, she's got some spunk, and a spirited woman, and so it was a lot of fun. And again, the performance that she brings to this project was just incredible. There's, again, when you start getting into these darker films, and people have to somehow find that inspiration, or be able to pull themselves into that character. um, it's interesting to see that transition from us talking to all of a sudden, okay, roll them, and now they're that, you know they're inside themselves to bring out that character. And so she was one of the ones that was like really, uh, I was really impressed with, you know the ability for her to bring out some of these emotions, and things of her character. And I say that impress almost as if like I'm surprised. It's not a surprise. It's just when you physically see it, it's kind of mind blowing. It's just like, wow, I wish I could do that, but that wasn't my talent. To be able to do things. And it's like with any art. When I see someone who can paint something in like 20 minutes that would take me forever to even get the outlines going. It's just that creativity that they have, and it's inspiring, impressive. It's just one, and she was one of those people that I enjoyed her performances, and again, how she was able to just kind of bring kind of that dark side, if you will, to the character. So
Okay. Jennifer Blanco.
that girl is crazy, crazy. I
All the
love her to death.
stories Jason Bradford shared about her on the road with her dad.
Yeah. I mean, she's just such a bubbly, fun character. I say character person, but yeah, she's great. I say I love her to death.
Yeah, I gotta look at some of these other names in this, because there are some behind the scenes people that do need to be addressed, like of course what I call the three amigos. Noelle Berger, Christy Fontenot, and Lisa Perez. Did you remember them wandering around the set?
Oh, I might have run across them once or twice. Actually, I went to there was Days of the Dead in
Hmm.
Atlanta, and so Christy, Lisa, myself, um, another producer, actor, David Miller, and Nancy uh, were all kind of met up and went to Days of Our Dead, or Days of the Dead convention. And Lisa's actually out of San Antonio, which is probably about 3 hours from where I live here in Texas. So kind of keep in touch with her every once in a while. You know, she's a, a memeaholic, and so uh, we we have quite a bit of banter that goes back and forth. But yeah, those three were you know a blast. You know, they were so much fun to hang out with.
Yeah, I forgot to mention Corey Feldman. How could I forget?
Yo, Corey. Yeah. Again, he was at the LA shoot, so I wasn't able to be there with him. But when his birthday came around while we were shooting, they got him a birthday cake, and had a small little celebration for him, and what have you. So again, it was good to see Corey involved with the project.
And of course, who I like to refer to as the Cackle Queen. You know who the Cackle Queen is?
Detail.
Deborah Sullivan.
Uh,
I call her the Cackle Queen because of Secret Santa. And
okay.
and Adam Marcus knows exactly what I'm referring to, and even she, if she messages me, refers to herself as a cackle queen. There's a scene in Secret Santa where she's cackling with she and another actress are right in each other's face cackling, and her mouth is so wide. And Adam says, yeah, he likes to get her to do the things he knows she can do. I love Deborah Sullivan, and of course, I heard she was Tom Matthews' replacement for this movie. So, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I wish Tom could be in it, but I got to say, Deborah Sullivan, I'm looking forward to seeing her in this. I love the Cackle Queen.
Right.
Yeah. Anything you can tell us about Tom Matthews and Adrienne King? Um, and I know the gist, but what's your take on both of them?
Well, I mean, like I said, having had dealings with stalkers and things in the past, I don't blame them. Obviously, there's still some trauma there that either they hasn't fully purged itself, or it's just something that they don't care to.
Well, I heard Tom Matthews. It was a scheduling thing. I think I heard from his end. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
so I mean, I guess I'm actually more referring to Adrian here, but the like I said, I can understand where she's coming from. Obviously, if it was a traumatic experience, why rehash it? Some people are able to work through that and get past that. Some people, it takes a little longer for that to happen, and again, depending upon to what extent, you may never get over it. So
Mm.
I definitely respect her decision for not being a part of it, due to that. Yeah, and scheduling actually did become kind of an issue with some of the shoots, because you know obviously we were very fortunate to finish up our principal photography when we did, because that's like we finished right before COVID really started
Oh,
becoming.
gee, you guys were lucky there.
And so had the shoot been scheduled later in the year, or even a couple weeks, was going to make all the difference in the world for us to be able to finish that. So um, you know again, that timing worked out fairly well. for us, but it really could have pushed things a lot further. And actually, it did, because we're releasing the project this year, um, with the assumption that at this point in time, COVID would have kind of diminished by now, because originally we were supposed to release last year, right?
Yeah.
So it got pushed off. It still had the effect, but in a way, I think it was a good thing for the project overall, because it allowed time for a bunch of the editing to be done, sound to be done, and people could actually focus on that, because they weren't having to worry about being at another shoot or whatever, because everything was shut down, right? So
Hmm.
things that were um, had been kind of pushed off until, well, when we have time to do it, well, now you have time and you know where to go. So I think a lot of those things were able to get accomplished. um, that being said, I think there were also, because of that, people that had projects that had kind of been sitting on the shelf, that they had things that they needed to wrap up. Well, now they're trying to wrap it up. So now you're competing for those skill sets to be able to, get the editing done, get the sound done, and what have you. So it did cause its own kind of domino effect, and, uh, some delays in trying to get different parts of the project completed. But overall, I think releasing it this year as opposed to last year, in the situation that we're in right now, is probably a better thing for the project itself.
Yeah. Another one I interviewed was Neely Heil. Yeah, I had her on. Yeah, I wasn't there on set, but I kind of lived vicariously through everybody's experience, but there's people I got to bring up, like Carrie Yates, for example. Had it not been for her, I wouldn't have been able to do the Zoom. She was my first Zoom interview, and I got to do a little shout out to her. People like Rob Mahoney and Jimmy Presley, who do a lot of footwork
Right.
online, particularly in promoting this, and how could I forget Troy Elke?
Oh. Old Troy. Yeah.
I've had him on here a couple times, and I'm going to say I know he only does a voice in the film, but I think he's one of the most talented people involved with the movie.
Yeah, Troy's an interesting guy. He's a good guy overall. And you're right. People like Carrie and Jimmy, and these people that have really
Mm-hmm.
done what I would consider, guerrilla promotion. They hit the streets running, and have really made a huge effort and a huge impact. Again,
Yep.
both internationally, because I guess Carrie being over in the UK or whatever has really been instrumental in getting the word out.
I was on here one night, because where I was, the station was in lockdown. I had an interview on January 4th, and I go do the test on this. She come online. She asked if I wanted her to help me break in and test the Zoom. I thought it was cool. Carrie Yates did that, so I feel good about giving her a shout out in particular. I'm going to mention Christopher Norris. I've heard that he has got the most bizarre death scene in this movie. Would you echo that?
I would put it up there on the list, if not the most bizarre. Yeah, I would agree.
I heard.
If in fact he were actually killed in the.
I have already heard from several people say he was. I heard he was watching a Troy Elke video and something happened.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, again, love Christopher Norris. I I got to bring up the fact he doubled for Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Kind of makes Christopher Norris look like a badass.
Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah, why would he be killed off? Yeah, but I'm happy to. Yeah, I'm happy to be involved with the movie myself. I'm looking forward to whenever I do see it. But I am going to promote it at Frightmare in the Falls next weekend. So I'm going to introduce myself to C.J. Graham as the co-producer. As a co-producer, I'm going to say I'm your boss.
There you go. Have you had the opportunity to converse with CJ?
No, I've had 5 people from Jason Lives on the show. Okay. Nancy's been on 4 times. Like I said, Nancy's one of these people. We talk a lot. I'll give you an example. She sent me a picture the other day. She said, we were on the phone. She said, "You're not going to believe what I'm looking at." And she said, "I got to take a picture of it because you're not going to believe me if I tell you." So she sent me a picture. There was a guy in California that she zoomed in on with her camera, was walking a turtle on a leash. A big box turtle.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, I would probably have not have believed her. But yeah, the guy, I don't know, he must have had nothing to do because, walking a turtle, you got to clear your schedule for that.
Of course.
But she said that to me, so I asked her, I said, "Do you mind if I put you on speakerphone when I approach C.J. Graham?" And so I think I'm going to do that, So, but I got to get CJ on here and go get him to sign my Jason Lives Blu-ray. I think Jason Lives to me is the best one of the franchise to me. Although I think the final chapter is the scariest. I think it's the scariest, and Ted White's my favorite Jason. Okay. Yeah, he was the most intense, and I've had Ted on here a couple times, and talk about somebody who has a history, the people he doubled for, but we got to move on and talk about Reunion from Hell because our names are both on that.
There we go.
Yes, I've had Hayden Newman on here a couple times. Okay. Yep. I haven't had Kathy Podwell yet. There's somebody I got to look out, get on. But and I had, of course, Orlando Rodriguez tonight. Interesting, you're both involved in the same movies as I am. Have you got to interact with Orlando on the set of either of these movies?
I have not. Like I said, let's see, Reunion, or Reunion. Again, that was one I was not able to be on set for, so I didn't get a chance to actually interact with him.
So no googly eyes?
No, at least not that I'm aware of. None that I saw. I was fortunate to go to the premiere that they had in Tennessee, from Reunion. So was there. Is it?
See, I haven't seen it. I know I'm going to get the Blu-ray. How did it turn out from your perspective?
I thought the production value came out pretty well.
Okay.
Again, I thought it was interesting the take that they had, with the inclusion of the LGBTQ aspect of the film. And honestly, I thought they did a really good job of it not being a like in your face, this is our agenda type thing. I think they did a really good job with
like that crappy Black Christmas 2019 film, which was, I wanted to ask the director for my money back after that movie. As a male viewer, I was like, how dare you, Right. But what is your take on Hayden Newman as a first-time director?
I think he did a pretty good job. Now, he does, or she has a background of theater, so it's not like she hasn't directed previously, but as far as a film, this is the first time directing, and so obviously there's some mechanics that are different with theater versus film.
Hmm.
I think that for first time that it did a pretty decent job. She did very well. Um, Again, I think the project is. I'm not sure how involved you were at the beginning of
Just,
the series. So
I got involved back when Felissa Rose, Tamara Glenn, and Sandy Johnson were supposed to be in it, and there's circumstances where they pulled away. They brought in Kathy Puldwell. I originally pulled away as well,
right.
but I end up coming back, and um, because it must be frustrating being a first-time director and trying to do a project. I've never directed a film, and I'm kind of one of these guys, like I said, give people an opportunity. So I had him on once, and I thought, well, I should have him on or have her on to do follow-up. So,
And actually, that how I got involved with the project was through Tamara. She had asked me. Uh, at the time, she was looking at doing both acting and producing of the project, and so she had contacted me and asked me if I would be willing to help with the production or the producing side, so that she could concentrate on the acting. And
mhm.
so she introduced me to Hayden. I actually met her. I was at a Women in Film Festival out in Atlanta, and
Okay, I think,
so
was that the one Vanessa put on?
yes, and
Okay.
um, so I was at that event, and Hayden heard that I was going to be there, so she drove in, and we had lunch and whatever, and it was kind of discussing the project with me, and and talking with Tamara, kind of what is it that she was looking for me to help with, and what, and so after talking with Hayden, the concept seemed pretty interesting to me, and so she sent me the script and read through it, and it's like, again, sounds like an interesting project to be a part of. How can I help, right? And so where I kind of helped with some of the stuff was more along the business side, contracts, things of that nature. Kind of giving some advice with um, distribution and things of that nature. Again, more so, uh, and just trying to answer whatever questions I could to assist from, like you're saying, as a first time director, what to expect, what not to expect, and it was tough when everybody pulled out. Obviously COVID was hitting too, so people were dropping projects because of that as well. But um, you know, the first round, if you will, of casting, was very impressive. The fact that they were able to get those people initially, at least verbally involved, I thought she did a good job with the casting of that. And then
I
once we
think
got,
I was the one that got Sandy Johnson involved, so I felt bad when Sandy ended up pulling out. But yeah,
and so, and it was tough, and actually, I think uh, she thought that I was going to pull out when Tamara, had to leave. I think she was afraid that I was going to, or Hayden was afraid that I was going to pull out and whatever. And, and it's kind of the same thing I told Hayden. I said, look, I said that I would help you with this, whatever I can do, just because Tamara isn't able to be a part of it anymore doesn't mean I'm just going to dump the project because of that relationship, right? It's like I said that I would help, and to whatever extent I can help, you just let me know. And so stuck with the project, through all of that, and obviously they had to recast and do a bunch of other things, which for having to go through all that as a seasoned director would have been difficult. The fact is, the first time, and now you're having to like almost completely start all over. I have to give Hayden props for going through that, sticking with it, and fulfilling the dream of actually getting the movie made.
Hmm.
Because I honestly believe that there were quite a few people who didn't really believe that it was going to move forward, and so um, I have to, like I said, give Hayden kudos for pushing forward and despite all these obstacles, getting the project finished. The band that they got, Fire Tiger, to do their soundtrack or a couple of the things. It was a really good band. Their music is type of music that I listened to growing up, and I'm just like, hey, this is pretty cool. And so they were able to get that put together, and the had they had some more, uh, and I don't want to take away from the crew or the actors, but I think had they been able to keep some of that original cast, it would have had more star power. But I don't know that it would have added anything more to the story, or if that makes sense.
Hmm.
I think this was a project where having lesser known actors did not really hurt the project. You know what I'm saying? So, um, but like I said, overall, based on the budget they had to work with, and all the issues that came about, the recasting and everything. Um, at the end of the day, I thought the project came out fairly well, considering everything that
Hmm.
they had to go through. So, um, I'll kind of leave it at that. But uh, like I said, I have to give props to the team
Absolutely. Yep.
for putting it together. So,
What was Tamara Glenn like? I hear different things about her, so I want your take on her.
well, I mean, for me personally, I've had pretty good experiences with her. I mean,
Hmm.
I would consider her a friend. I met her pretty much through, she used to run a film festival out of Hot Springs, Arkansas,
Okay.
and so um, one of the that's really how I met her. I had some films a few years back that were entered in her festival, and over the years, kind of developed that friendship, from that connection. And so, um, again, she's a very passionate person. I'll put it that way. And some people, I guess, can misconstrue that as being, pardon the term, bitchy, but
Hmm.
it's more like she knows what she wants, and she knows, what she's asking for. And that's, I don't consider that bitchy. I consider that knowing what you want, right?
Yeah.
So,
I have no place of reference. I hear different things. I just know she was this gorgeous blonde in Halloween 5, and
yeah,
so
she's a great person. I mean, like I said, I've developed a friendship with her,
mhm.
and on like when you were talking about being a handler for, um, I just went blank.
Oh, CJ Graham.
No, the woman that you had said earlier,
Lisa Langlois.
Lisa. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that same situation. There's been a couple events, in the Texas area where Tamara would call me up, say, hey, I'm going to be so and so, such and such convention. You want to come out, hang out, or can you come help me out? And so I'd go down, and if she needed help, I helped her. If not, we just kind of hung out, and
Oh, I'd love it if I saw you two down there, and I flip out and go, oh, Tony, Tony,
funny story.
Okay.
So, kind of going back to D. Wallace, uh,
Okay.
I had just done a project with her daughter, Gabrielle,
Hmm.
and so we had shot, and Dee was at Texas Frightmare. So I
Hmm.
went there, and she had this huge line of people that, had been waiting to see her and was trying to get the autographs and everything. And, I kind of snuck over and said, "Hey, Dee, I just wanted to stop by and say hi real quick." Well, she saw me and like dropped everything. She's like, "Oh my gosh." And so got like these laser piercing eyes of like, who the hell is this guy? We've been waiting here forever. Now all of a sudden, he's stopping traffic. And so she comes over, and, when you talk about making you feel good, right? So
Yep.
she stops and, gives me this big old hug and is telling everybody, "Oh my God, this Tony, he's a executive producer. He worked with my daughter on this project." And, it's just like going on and on. And people are like, "Oh, he must be important if she's, giving all these kudos," right? And so it was very humbling, embarrassing in a way, but in a good way. Of She literally like just stopped traffic and said hi. And it's kind of like, "Well, look, I don't want to take up your time because I know you're busy. I just wanted to stop by and say hello." And and the fact that she took the time to say hi, and again, just kind of stop what she was doing and acknowledge me, if you will. It was interesting. But man, I felt the knives in my back and every part of me from people like, "Dude, we've been sitting here forever waiting for her to come back, and now you're making us wait again." So, but it's kind of those professional courtesies, if you will.
Well, you know what? I just realized Gabriel Stone is involved in 13 Fanboy. I didn't realize that was her daughter, and I'm like, it makes sense because her husband was with her, and Christopher Stone was in The Howling with her. I was like, okay, I should reach out and have her daughter off. I can't get Dee. I've never spoken to her daughter before, and she's involved in some projects with you. Let's discuss those because I recognize a few familiar uh, projects. I gotta go back down and find your name here again. You hate that when that happens, so I can find click on you here so I can here we there I found you. Okay. All right. I because I noticed it happened again last night. Was one that popped up. That's one you're involved. What was the other one you're involved with?
It happened again last night, and then the other one, well, there are two other ones. After Emma was the
Mm-hmm.
latest one, and then there was one called oh my gosh, I can't believe I just went blank on the name. Um, that's bad. Golly.
Were you a producer on these?
Yeah, it's like it's put me on the spot. So now I'm just like,
Well, about a hell of a night.
now it was Once When I Was Dead is the name of the project. So,
Oh, okay.
um, so Once When I Was Dead is the project that was written and directed by a guy by the name of Scott W. Perry. And so Gabrielle Stone, Kaylee Williams, Tiffany Shepis
Mm-hmm.
was involved in that project. Um, and so that was where I first met Gabrielle. And then it happened again last night. Was a film that we did that was dealt with domestic violence. And so I teamed up with Gabrielle on that particular project. And that one, you know, did fairly well in the film festivals. We got to screen at the Holly Shorts Film Festival, so I was really excited about that. First project that I was involved with that got screened at the Grauman Theater, the Chinese Theater, and stuff. So felt like really part of the Hollywood scene at that point.
It's funny how you say that. I actually had a film play at the Chinese Theater. Of course, I wasn't there, but it was kind of strange. Like I'm not an actor, but I cameo in 9 James Balsamo movies, and all I've done was shoot them on my phone and send the footage. And It Wants Blood played at the Chinese theater, and I'm being watched. This footage I shot on my phone. Well, my brother shot it. Is being watched on a television by Eric Roberts.
Right.
I'm in scenes with Eric Roberts. Never met the guy. Was never in California, but it played at the Chinese theater, and I'm like, okay, I'll take that.
Well, that's actually kind of a humbling experience because if you think about it, just right across the hall is where, the Oscars are given out, and so you're
Oh,
like,
they're not giving one of them to me. Trust me.
understandable. The thought is that, you're just like one step closer to the Academy Awards or, of just being there. And it was actually, like I said, a very humbling experience to have it screened there, and so very excited about that. Um, After Emma is a project that we just, it went through the film festival circuit, and probably this last week or so, we kind of released it to the public to be able to see via YouTube. So I think if probably on my Facebook page, there's probably a link there. I think I shared it probably sometime last week to be able to actually go see that film. It's probably about a 12-minute or so short, but very powerful, as were the other 2 films as well.
Talk about Hell of a Night. I'm looking that up on here, and that looks crazy.
So Hell of a Night was written and directed by Brian Childs. That was his first feature film. He does a lot of like videos and music videos, and does shoots for a sports franchise at this point. But that was his first attempt at a feature film, and it's kind of along the lines of a paranormal type movie. Um, One of the actresses in there, Grace Powell,
Okay.
is actually, she's doing pretty well. She was in that series Paradise City, which was based off of the movie American Satan, if you're familiar
Okay.
with any of those. So anyway, so that was a fun shoot. Going back to um, It Happened Again Last Night, that's a project where I got to work with Amanda Wiss and Chris Mulkey, and kind of an up and coming, or actually she's more than up and coming at this point, but was Sydney Sweeney, who
Okay.
and Euphoria, HBO's Euphoria. She's blown up like all over the place now. She's done a few HBO series, and I said, beautiful young woman. She's, like I said, I've had the pleasure of working with her in that movie, and it's actually kind of cool to see some of these people that had not really reached the pinnacle of their careers. They're just kind of getting started, to have actually worked with them, and now kind of seeing where they've progressed and are starting to get recognition. And so anyway, but yeah, those are the projects that I've worked with Gabrielle on, and
Okay.
it's been a lot of fun.
Okay. What other projects do you want to promote and plug on here that you've worked on that you're able to talk about?
Let's see. There's some older projects that one of the things that I'll kind of promote, So I was involved with a kind of an anthology series called In Fear of, which basically was created again by Scott W. Perry.
Okay.
And the concept is basically, phobias. It would take a phobia and do episodes around the phobia. So it had kind of a Twilight Zone slash creep show type vibe to these different phobias. And so they kind of made an anthology series out of that. There's a project that Scott is working on now that is a kind of an anthology feature um, that has kind of a wraparound associated with it. Again, kind of in the vise of creep show, but it deals with, it's got a couple of vignettes that are thrown together with a wraparound dealing with, 3 or 4 different phobias and um, and what have you. So that's a project that we're still kind of working through pre-production on, but hoping to get that pushed. Probably won't start shooting until next year. Try to get everything lined up, obviously, but that's one of the projects that's kind of forthcoming. Right now, I've kind of really been focusing on getting this project, out, and 13 Fanboy kind of has been taking a lot of the focus here recently. There's another project that I just recently got involved with. It's called The Hostage.
Okay.
We're in post production on that, so hopefully we'll get that wrapped up. Like to say by the end of the year, but again, we'll wait to see if that transpires or not. Hopefully, get that out to distribution, within the next, 4 to 6 months or so. Maybe it'll probably take about that long. Um, those are the ones I guess that are kind of in the works right now. There's talks about uh, Reunion from Hell Part Two. So
Yeah.
we'll see if if that actually comes to fruition. They're still trying to work through some of that stuff, but again, those are kind of the projects that I've been involved with here recently.
You mentioned Amanda Wiss. What was it like working with her?
Oh, I love Amanda. She is so awesome. Obviously, I'm a fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street, franchise as well. So, being able to work with her and um, just she's a great person, very um, a beautiful soul. There's a project that she did, and it's called ID, like ID.
I know.
Have you seen that?
I've got it here with several signatures on it, and I interviewed Tommy Hudson, Patrick Douglas Padudu, Amanda Wiss was on with Tommy, and I interviewed one of the other actors, and its name's escaping me. Just give me a second, because I interviewed him just a couple months ago. Just give me a second, because I want to give him proper credit.
Which while you're looking that up, for me, that was one of Amanda's best performances that I've ever seen. And um, it's kind of sad and frustrating that it hasn't gotten out to more people because, like I said, that performance and where she had to go, how dark that performance really was. I'd asked her at one point as, did how long did it take you to come out of that character? Because, and she said it took quite a while for her to be able to pull herself up out of that kind of depression, that dark side of that character, that emotional aspect. And like I said, for me, that's probably one of the best performances that I've ever seen, in really in general, but um, by far one of the best performances from an acting standpoint um, that I've ever seen Amanda do.
I liked her in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Um, Malcolm Matthews was the other actor. I interviewed him this year. Yeah, because he it's on its 5-year anniversary. Yeah. No, I like the I got it here with a bunch of signatures on it, including Tommy Hudson, Patrick Douglas Padudu, who I thought was amazing in it, and Amanda's and Tommy's and probably Malcolm Hughes as well. A lot of people sign their name like doctors, so I never know who's. But yeah, I got the id here on Blu-ray, and yeah, all the I had them on here to promote it. It's the only time I've had Amanda on here, and I because I've had a hard time locking her down for an interview. But when this project came out, I figured I'll kill two birds with one stone. I'll interview Tommy Hudson, and he could bring Amanda with him.
Right.
Worked.
Good.
Yep, worked.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like the ed. Absolutely, absolutely. Do you got any charities that you're involved with that you want to promote on here?
Yes, and there's a couple that I deal with. I'm a real big proponent for breast cancer awareness.
Mm-hmm.
From just personal experiences in my life. Actually, this past year had a really good friend of mine uh, who was involved with setting up a film festival and what have you, called the Macabre Fair Film Festival. Originated out of Long Island, New York, um, and she battled breast cancer for about 15 years, and finally this last year succumbed to it. And so, you know, pretty much anything dealing with that. We have an organization here in the Houston area called The Rose, which is a breast cancer awareness, or they deal with providing women mammograms and things of that nature. You know, the various exams and what have you. So that's one that I deal with here. Um, there's that's one of the main ones that I'm a proponent on. Also have nieces and nephews that are on the various stages of the spectrum of autism, and so
Okay.
I try to deal with some of the organizations that um, you know contribute to the autistic nature, and it's amazing how like I said, you've got various ranges of the spectrum, to where you've got the ones that are kind of like the Rain Man, where it's just uh, they don't look you in the eye, they talk, they have different fidgets, either like a rocking motion, or something with their fingers or hands or something to keep them occupied. But it's amazing how people look at them as having the disability, but a lot of times it's like they're the smartest people in the room, but just because they don't analyze things or process things the same way we do, they're the ones that are odd. Well, in some cases it's actually reversed, because like I said, they're accessing things that you can't access, or I don't really know if I'm explaining that very well,
Oh, you explained it perfectly to me. Yeah.
but it's one, so that's another organizations, or at least organizations that I like to address, or the autism and breast cancer awareness are kind of, I guess, the two main um, factions that I deal with at this point. There's other ones as well, like the United Way. I live down in the Houston area, so obviously we get hit with a lot of the hurricanes and tropical storms and things like that. So try to contribute to those or help organizations, as much as possible as well, in the Gulf Coast region. But um, again, wherever we can help and provide some kind of assistance, you know, try to get involved with. For me, I think it's important to one, give back to the community, but if you can get them involved in the projects, it gives you more, you know, again, it gives the opportunity to give back. And help people. Like, for example, when we shot 13 Fanboy, we had a lot of people that were, locals that were extras, out of Ruidoso. And so the fact that the community was involved, the hotels, the restaurants are seeing, these actors and, crew and whatever. And so you kind of bring them into the process and in a way, giving back to the community by allowing them to be part of it. It's to me, it's kind of fulfilling. Where again, you're getting a community effort on things, and I think if there were more of that just in the world, we get a lot more done. So.
Did you hear about the charity that I'm behind? I don't run it, but behind that, Jason Bradford helped spearhead on the 13 Fanboy set, called the Doubtfire Face Challenge for Suicide and Depression Awareness.
I am aware of that. Yes.
Yep. I've been trying to get the industry involved, and I did it a couple times. Actually, I did one with Lisa in Toronto. Actually.
Okay.
Yep. And it come up after Robin Williams sadly left us, and but I've been trying to get the industry involved, and Lisa Langwood did one. She did one with me, and she did one with her son. And her son enjoyed that. Nancy McLaughlin did one in front of props from Jason Lives. That was pretty cool. Sandy Johnson did one. Her husband was dressed up as Michael Myers. And she nominated Nick Castle, PJ Souls, and Felissa Rose. I'm going to see Felissa in Frightmare in the Falls. I'm going to show her that video when I go there. Ellie Moody did it from My Bloody Valentine. I threw it out to her because she's a professional clown. So she went from fighting with killer miners to professional clown. I had some people in the wrestling industry, James Ellsworth, Roddy Piper's daughter, Ariel Teal Piper, and Tori Wilson did one. But in terms of on the set, Ron Sloan did one. And Jason Bradford did a couple times. He threw it out to Haley Greenbauer and and the two from Never Hike Alone. Adrienne King's been nominated, I think, like 5 times. In fact, Jimmy Presley just recently nominated her. And Debbie Sue's been nominated a couple times. Tracy Savage has been nominated a couple times. Lark Park Lincoln, various people.
So did you use whipped cream or shaving cream?
When I did it, I just bought a pie, but so I would recommend whipped cream,
That's where the prankster stuff kind of comes in. It's like, oh yeah, don't worry about it until your eyes start burning with that shaving cream. But
I'm hoping when the promotional stuff for 13 Fanboy starts dying down, I'm hoping to get some responses on that because, I'm a co-producer on the movie. That certainly wasn't cheap. and getting the perk for the front of the movie and the end of the movie and get my picture in the movie. That was a lot of money. And Scotty McCoy, another podcaster, says it takes less than $5 for whipped cream and a paper plate, you know? So I'm hoping to get some of them to respond to that. Now, Adam Marcus said he's eventually going to do it because I'm involved with Hearts of Darkness and Making the Final Friday.
Okay.
And he and Deborah Sullivan and people involved with that are going to. And he told me he's going to be nudging some people from 13 Fanboy because he thinks it's an important cause. So, yeah, that was the one that I threw out there. Noelle Berger did it. She did it. Troy Elke did it.
Huh.
Troy Elke, I think, did it in drag. Does that surprise you?
No.
No? Yeah, so, yeah, that was the one I was throwing out there, and if you want to do one of those, it's up to you. But I would urge you, if you do, nominate 3 of the named people from 13 Fanboy.
I will take that into consideration.
Yeah, but I know that took place a few times on 13 Fanboy. Did you witness any of it?
I did not. They were actually doing a set of those one of the days that I was there, but I had other work that was going on. So by the time I found out that they were doing it, I had already left set. So, but yeah, I know there were some of those things going on.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to get a few more. It's like, now I did throw it out to Judy Aronson on Cameo. And I've never spoken to her before, but due to COVID, and this was when it was thick and COVID was thick, she wasn't able to get a pie right now. But she promises that she's going to do this. Actually, she said she was jealous that Ron Sloan got nominated, but she didn't realize that she had been nominated. So I'm like, okay. We need to get her to do some weird science with some pies and,
right,
you know, take up that challenge. And Tracy Savage is somebody I really hope does it because, let's face it, she's responsible for my involvement in this movie.
There you go.
You know, I'm sorry. I got to point blame somewhere. Now, here's my last question I'm going to ask you. Sure. You mentioned conventions. I started doing the conventions in 2017 when Lisa Langlois invited me, and I've been to 3 Horror-Ramas, 1 Comic-Con in Toronto. And they were all in Toronto. I'm going to attend my first Frightmare in the Falls in Niagara Falls. And so what are your stories of conventions? I'm under the impression you've been to a few.
I have. Actually, I kind of started back up in around 2006, 2007 timeframe. And
oh wow, you've been at it a while.
Right, but actually, I'm more of a sci-fi guy than a horror guy, to be honest. But you know, there's areas where they kind of parallel and cross paths, right? So
actually, this is not just strictly horror, like any convention at all, you know?
So I started getting back involved. I was fortunate to be involved with, I've been working with Lucasfilm with their Star Wars Celebration events and San Diego Comic-Con events, probably since about, I said 2007, 2008 timeframe. And, you know, those experiences have taken me to Japan, Germany, London, as well as, you know, various locations here in the U.S., Florida, California.
When's it going to take you to the middle of a Troy Elke video?
Oh, man, that's a good question. Good question. No, and so, you know, like I said, I've done several, as far as the horror conventions, I've done Monster Mania, and Days of the Dead, the Rhode Island Comic Con, had that before. Um, some of the stuff I used to do is, it's funny that when I was talking about being CJ's handler in the film,
Hmm.
well, I've done that in real life, so it wasn't a real big stretch to do that.
Who are you handling? Who are you a handler for?
Oh man, I've done.
Who are the
So,
ones that stood out for you, like the ones that you just, when you found out you were going to be a handler, you just dug the experience? So this was just, it just made your weekend, not just because it was them, but their personality you just gelled with. And anybody stand out?
um, Peter Mayhew, formerly
Chewbacca.
Chewbacca.
Could you understand him?
Of course, of course, it takes a Wookiee to know a Wookiee. So now, like I said, Peter was great. Worked with Tom Kane, voice actor. Worked with oh man, there's like so. I mean, there's been quite a few over the years. I'm trying to think of the ones that just like really kind of stand out. A lot of them have been Star Wars.
Hmm.
Carrie Fisher.
Oh, you got to work with her.
I worked with Carrie before. I've worked with Mark.
Talk about Carrie,
And
because we sadly lost her.
oh yeah, yeah. Like I said, it was she and her dog Gary. They were fun to work with. Again, having been involved with a lot of the Lucasfilm stuff, the people that I've met through those connections, just is inspiring, mind blowing. One of the guys I've been able to develop a good friendship with is uh, Steve Sansweet, who basically has the world record or Guinness Book of World Records for his Star Wars collection out of Petaluma, Rancho Obi-Wan. So, again, I've met those people, illustrators, artists. It's I've been, like I said, really fortunate to kind of, I guess, be in the right place at the right time, so to speak.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like making one connection, made another connection, made another connection, and now all of a sudden it's like, how did I get here? Honestly,
I'm asking that same question regarding me, you know?
to this day, I look around and see some of the people I know, and it's just like, how did I meet these people? How did I get involved? How did all of this transpire? And it's I've always been involved with entertainment, theater. Even high school, junior high, or whatever, through college. I was part of the entertainment network at school, so was bringing in the magicians.
I'm very amused right now because your fish is right now just emerged up behind you.
uh, you can see how big he is.
Yeah, he's like, I want in on this.
Like that's my arm. He's that big.
Who's the first person that you approached at a con to get an autograph from?
Ooh, that's a good one. Because when I first started going to the conventions, I was, I was kind of like that see from afar. I was
Hmm.
very intimidated to actually go up and meet these people, right? And of course, now it's like, okay, they're regular people. They just happen to have a job that makes them popular, right? So,
Yep.
but at the time, it was fanboy stuff like, um, probably one of my first autographs that I can remember was Cynthia Rothrock, um, martial artist.
Okay.
She did a lot of movies in the 80s time frame, 80s, 90s. Um, I think if you were like looked her up or whatever, if you were into any of those kind of films, you would recognize her. But very talented woman.
Hmm.
Um, but she's probably one of the first ones that I remember of actually getting an autograph from the convention scene. Um, I remember that even going back before then, probably one of my first autographs. Um, I was at one of these seminars or what have you for being able to bring artists to the campus was and I'm going to forget his real name, but Biff from Back to the Future.
Oh yeah, Biff Tanner.
And
I can't even remember it right off the top of my head. I know who you're talking to though.
and so he was probably one of the very first autographs that I got because I met him at this. Um, I guess it's like a seminar for colleges to bring in talent, right? So,
Well,
you know,
Biff didn't go to college.
sure he did. Um, but like I said, that was one of the first like autographs that I remember getting, before I actually started collecting. And then um, again, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so the majority of my autographs are Star Wars. But I have
I saw the Star Wars trilogy at the drive. We don't have drive-ins here anymore,
right.
but I saw them at the drive-in when I was young. I was 5 years old when Star Wars came out in 1977, so we saw those all at the drive-in, which was pretty cool. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's. But then I met through the conventions like John Saxon and Bob Wall, and again going back to the martial arts, Enter the Dragon.
John Saxon gone. What were your memories of meeting him?
Oh, he was a fun character. He was gracious enough to do like some kind of a martial art pose type deal with me, and got a picture with him as well as autograph, and so he Jim Kelly was another one from Return of the Dragon that he's passed as well. So it was pretty interesting.
Interviewed the still photographer from Enter the Dragon, Dave Friedman.
I have not met him.
Yeah. Yeah, he did Grease, he did Enter the Dragon, a bunch of other stuff. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So, like I said, I've been, fortunate to, work with some people like Michael Bean, worked with um, William William Defoe.
oh, Willem Dafoe, wow.
Um, you know, I said Amanda West.
Oh yeah, Amanda Wiss. I
Yeah.
mean, we all love Willem Dafoe, but Amanda, I mean, easy on the eyes. I
Um,
mean,
but like I said, Danielle Harris was one of the people as well in a film called The Victim with Michael Bean and Jennifer Blanc.
what was your impressions of Danielle Harris?
Um, she was fun. I mean, again, most of the people I've been fortunate to work with have, for the most part, been very professional, and it's fun to work with these people. Met Eileen Beats, and
Oh, Eileen, I've had on here a couple times. Yeah, I like her.
she was actually one of the ambassadors for the film festival of the lady that I was referring to, and so we'd have her out at events, and she'd sign autographs and do whatever there. Again, most people think of The Exorcist with Eileen. For me, I'm more the Planet of the Apes. Her role there. So it's funny how you see a lot of these actors and actresses that have had horror film history, but that may not be their overall genre, but they've had parts. And so, like I said, it's funny when I go to some of these conventions where everybody is looking at them from the horror aspect, and I'm looking at them from some other film that they were involved with from a different genre. And so I find it humorous that, like, with the sake of Judy, I'm asking for the American Ninja, and everybody else is, asking for something else, right? It's kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything else you want to promote on here before we close off?
Not that I can think of right now. I mean, like I said, I'm probably wasting an opportunity, but at the same time, I think we've probably discussed most of the things I've been involved with here recently. And so,
well, this has been a very fascinating interview. I'm glad I was able to have you on here. Like I said, some of the people behind the scenes, I find, number one, like when you thanked me for the posting that thing on there, I always find the behind the scenes people are mostly the people that show the most gratitude. Not in all cases, but I see that a lot. And number two, like, you gave a wonderful interview, and I know you have regrets not being in the latest Troyalki video, but I mean, give it time.
I'm hoping that he'll reach out at some point, but until then,
I'm waiting to see the Troyalki Christopher Norris road movie.
Let the adventures begin.
Watching those two banter back and forth was always fun to watch.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you got more projects coming out in the next year, I mean, I'd be more than happy to have you back on.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'll definitely get some things, some of the pre-production stuff resolved, and where we're actually at a point to discuss some of the things, and definitely would love to come back on and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So maybe next year around this time, I'll reach out to you again and do a follow up. Yeah, but I'm kind of glad I made that post, because, like I said, I had about 7 people respond to that, and I enjoyed your story, enjoyed your ventures, and you were well worth having on here today. And I thank you for your patience, because I screwed up on the time zone, but thank you for being so patient with that. And,
no worries. Again, appreciate you having me on the podcast here. So,
yeah. Are you going to introduce Debbie Sue's dog to your big fish?
Probably not. Scout will probably tear him up. So,
oh, I thought the fish would win. That looks like Jaws.
Dun, 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 dun. Actually, what I need to do is get the Jason, for the fish tank there.
Oh, the one with him underwater with the chain around his neck? Yeah. Yeah, you need to get that, yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on here tonight, or I actually should say early morning. Early morning. But I appreciated hearing your story. You're well worth it, and you may be behind the scenes, but you're a very, very important part of this movie, and I appreciate your input on it, and I appreciate you connecting with me. This was a lot of fun to do.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. God bless you, and you have yourself a good night, and enjoy 13 Fanboy.
Thank you. You do the same.
All right, whenever I see it, but yeah, sure. Take care, man.
All right, Greg. Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yep.